Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Laura Van Daken with the Ames marketing team, and I'm going to be your host during the webinar. I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast, Understand Prescriptive Analytics in 20 minutes. We're going to provide an overview about this exciting category, why companies find it valuable, and share some examples with you. It's my pleasure today to introduce our presenter, Gerjan de Lang. Gerjan has been working with leading companies, partners, and universities around the world. He also works closely with research organizations like Gartner and has over 2 decades of experience in the prescriptive analytics space. He also actively speaks and blogs on the topic.
Okay, I'd like to start with 2007. It's a book that came out by Tom Davenport, Competing on Analytics. I think it's a very important book for our field. It doesn't talk about prescriptive analytics yet, but it talks about an analytics ladder. And some of you might be familiar with it. And if not, I would highly recommend to read this book. I think it's one of the first books that really wanted to connect the analytics sides of the business, analytics versus the business side, with the business side. And if you look at this ladder, it's very interesting from Tom Davenport looked at the degree of intelligence that you need to get an understanding of data. Data is the basis here. And then you think about, doing standard reports, ad hoc reports up to alerts, just understanding what's really there, looking at it. It's very traditional, what it was in the past. But if you want to start to compete on the data, you want to do more with the data, get more insights, you have to start to do actual analytics. That's work on the data. And there you go into ways of statistical analysis to understand why things are happening. To look at forecasting, see if the trends continue. Maybe do predictive modeling, see what will happen next. And on top of there, we have optimization. What's the best thing that can happen? And that's a field that we are very active in as well. And the interesting thing about these topics is that if you look at what happened in 2007, it was just before the crisis. People already looked at ways to get more with their business, get more in their business, more advances with their data, get more insights. And if you look at the difference as well between optimization and the other 3 analytics ones, the other 3 are very focused on, I have data, what does the data tell me? The optimization side, on the other hand, gives you recommended action. What's the best thing that can happen? And there you have to start modeling actually the business. And that's something what we'll see about a little bit more as well. Not long thereafter, 2 other books came out. Tom Davenport wrote Analytics at Work, but also there's a great book from Steve Sashahari, Optimization Ads, and that one focused very much on the top of the ladder. And I think it's a great testament of showing some examples what worked and what didn't work, and which companies even survived and which companies didn't survive. And again, if you're interested in understanding what you could do, it talks about the different people you have to have in place, the way you have to approach your business. I think those are great books to read as well. And in the back, by the way, I have some references for you to read more about that. But again, I think this was the first part where we saw for ourselves as well as an organization, Ames. We've been in business since '89, where suddenly people in business understood that what mathematics or statistical analysis, forecasting could actually mean for the business side. And it allowed us to even start kind of an analytics wave. And you saw people talking about it. Even organizations like Informs created a business analytics conference. And that was new for us. And I think it was very important to cross that bridge. But however, it was still very focused on the engineers, the people who knew about analytics or knew about these type of engineering mathematical technologies. They could start applying it in the business. But that's, of course, not for all businesses. And I think when Gartner started to pick it up, then really it became much more prominent. It was starting to be discussed as well as at management level or at C-level. And Gartner, what it also did, I think, was very nice in this chart you see here. It started to layer it a little bit differently. It looked at, on the left side, you have data, the starting point, that's what you have, what you know, or what you think you know. But on the right side, it's action. As a business, you want to create actions. And of course, if you do action, you want to have the right action. So you want to make decisions for that. And what you see in the green coloring is the human input, the light green coloring. And with descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive, you need human input to interpret data. You need to make some kind of assumptions or combine certain data, try to find certain correlations. While if you go to prescriptive, and optimization is a part of prescriptive, you start to actually model your business and it becomes a decision support tool. It gives you answers based on your business instead of you finding out what the answers could be by using mathematical algorithms, combining certain correlations, using predictive insights, bring them all together, and that will give you insight on what you could do. And Guardian just also released a forecast of this business, and they see now that about 10% of the organization actually use a type of prescriptive analytics, but they forecast to grow that up to 35% in 2020. So definitely it's a hot topic, it's an important topic. And we see it all around the world. You want to squeeze the last mile out of your business, whether it's on margin, you want to improve your customer levels. There's all kinds of things you want to do, and that's where prescriptive comes in play. But of course, we can say all this. So I thought, let's look at some other data. And this is very descriptive data, of course. I thought, let's look at Google Trends, Prescriptive Analytics. What happened over time? And what you see here, the growth from 2011 to 2017 now, it's growing. More people are looking at it. More people are interested in it. So that's definitely a great testament, I think, to what we see, that it supports the analytics and prescriptive analytics wave. It didn't start exactly with the book, I think, 2011, but it's there where we saw the first signals of using this terminology. Of course, we also have to be realistic. We all know the Super Bowl is coming up, and you can exactly see when Super Bowl is coming up here right now. And the people who are interested in Super Bowl are not necessarily interested in prescriptive analytics. So we still have a long ways to go. But again, here also data again tells you, hey, when is the Super Bowl? By seeing the spikes, you know what's really happening in NFL. I think that's so interesting if you look at data. How can I use the data to become more efficient? So to do all this, there's different ways to look at it, and what we see is a new way, a new approach of working with the business, where traditionally when people started off doing some prescriptive analytics or predictive analytics, a lot of people start with, of course, Excel or an Excel-like a tool. And I don't want to be exhaustive in tools, but just give it as an example, because Excel is so easy to use. You can make very easy data sets in it, and you can do some analysis, some trends and all this stuff, and people get some insights, but it's very, very personal. It's limited to a number of users. You cannot really transfer it to others. So running a business on it is pretty scary, but it's being done with lots and lots of Excel spreadsheets next to each other. So, but what happened when people understand the value of it, they say, well, I want to in fact take a next step. Are there parties out there that give me certain solutions that I just have to configure because they have the knowledge about my business, and by configure I will be faster. I will be faster in deploying it. I can easier support my teams. I have very regular use. I want to make sure it's stable and all that stuff. And examples like Lamasoft and SAP APO are great examples for that. They already have baked solution. If you can solve it, you configure it, and then it becomes right for your business. That's all great, of course, but it's still limited. It's limited to the scope of what the solution is offering. And if you then go all the way to the right, what we're really focusing on is making sure that if you want to embed these type of technologies, you should not be limited by a specific way of doing your business. You should not, and some people call it SEPify yourself. If you don't adhere to the SEP rules, it's going to be hard to put your business in there. Well, if you want to differentiate yourself and become better or become more innovative, you want to have also the flexibility in that. And modeling allows you to do that. It allows you to model it as your business is. But of course, you also have to have the other side. It's not just the modeling and the application building, it's also ability to really put it in the hands of the end users, make it very easy, transferable into the organization. And there, because if it's in the organization, that's where you really get the value. And that's in the end why we do it. So, in fact, if you look at that, if you start thinking about modeling and optimization, the prescriptive analytics side, it doesn't have to be that hard to get started, because as a business owner, you typically have an objective. You want to achieve something. It could be a cost minimization of your marketing budget. It could be manufacturing optimization, cost optimization. It could be sourcing optimization. How do I manage my contracts in the best possible way? All these type of things, transport optimization, these type of things, of course, are all objectives you go after. And when you go after it, you want to make decisions. So what do I have to do? How much should I transport? How much should I produce? How much stock level should I have? How should I price certain things? All these things are decisions that are flexible. You can play with them to enhance your business, to increase your margin, to become more efficient. But of course, you also have your restrictions. The restrictions could be physical or they could be strategic. Physical, as a location has a certain storage facility. It can only hold so much of a certain product. There are only roads going from A to B and maybe not from A to C, so you have to go through A. All these type of things are restrictions you have to adhere into a model. But it can also be strategic. For example, in the sourcing, you want to maybe source at least from 2 or 3 different suppliers, so you minimize your risk. And of course, logically, you have your inputs. And your inputs could be all the systems you have, like your transactional-based systems, you could be your Excel files or whatever. But there could also be inputs that are maybe uncertain. It could be like a demand forecast, and you want to use that input as well. And in the end, what you want to do, if you have those four together, and you put that into what we call a model, you can start exploring combinations, best possible combinations. And you can understand the effect of certain decisions. You can say, well, what if I were to do this? What if I were to supply so much to this location? What would happen with my results? This exploration of what ifs gives you more understanding of the business, gives you better decisions. And a nice study, and I'm trying to give you also some feedback out of the market, and again, those links are also in the back, is Bain had a very nice study where they looked at companies, supply chain, and looked at how they applied advanced analytics capability, what happened if they were to do that. And first of all, they looked at the company and that they realized that a lot of these companies said, well, our supply chain is not so good. In fact, we think we're worse or maybe equal than our competitors or our peers, whatever you would call them, which of course is quite a statement. And that means you want to become better. And when they started applying analytics and advanced analytics specifically, so the advanced analytics is the predictive and the prescriptive part, where you start to do more than just looking at the data, really use models and algorithms to find new ways of running your business. They started to use the data more frequently and therefore make decisions more frequently. And I think that's important. You have to make decisions, and you can let decisions go and say, well, we'll live with it. But if you can make that faster, it will help you become better. And they do it 5 times more likely, but they also become more effective. And I think that's also very important in executing decisions, because you have more background, you have more insights, you feel more comfortable. You get more understanding of maybe the robustness of a certain decision. And giving you the comfortability also gives you more comfortability to actually make a change. And that's important, because you have to vouch that the ROI is right, or you can really deliver your customer. All these type of things are happening. And of course, that automatically pans out into becoming outperformers. And that's what you see as well. They become outperformers, the ones that are actually doing that. And I think going back to the book of Steve, Optimization, I think he has some great examples in there. I definitely recommend you to read that. So what do we see in our company base? When do people start to use prescriptive analytics? And a very obvious one, and it happens many, many times, and it's, I think, also because a lot of companies still run a lot of things on spreadsheets, is that people are in spreadsheets and they cannot handle the complex situations and the recurring planning issues. We've seen customers where they're happy by the end of the week they have a planning in an Excel spreadsheet, by just making sure that everything is tick-tack back and forth and everybody knows exactly what's going on, 15 calls around it. It's very, very complicated, and actually you're not still running your business, you're just trying to get a plan. And sharing a plan or making it transferable to a next person, it's going to be even harder. If you could model that, you could just pull data in it and show solutions, and suddenly you go much faster and become much better in executing. You can start thinking differently about your business. You can think about, why do we do the things instead of what do we have to do. So an example here, 10 hours now takes 5 seconds. These are really situations that we see happening, and that's quite amazing. The other thing is, you see people that are limited in their growth because of the solution they have. It could be, I shared before, certain solutions that you might purchase for a certain problem, which could be inventory optimization, or it could be network optimization, or something else. It doesn't really matter. But typically, these solutions are within a certain space. If you go outside, you have to ask for change request, and it's not standard, so maybe you don't get it. So you have to just do it outside the solution. And we see more and more integration where people say, I want to have sales and operation planning together, or I want to add contract values to my operational decisions. And it's very logical. If you're not able to do that, that's a way where people say, well, I want to break out the standard, I want to invest and understand how I can become better and start modeling the completeness of my business. And then thirdly, and this is not exhaustive, but I think these are 3 very important points. People also sometimes feel stuck. There is a certain process in the organization. Big systems are in place. If you want to add something new, you have an idea, it's going to take you 6, 12, 18 months to get that started, because you need everybody on board. IT needs to be on board. It needs to be in certain processes. It has waterfall techniques. All these type of things are there. It's not very agile. And if you're not agile, it's going to be very hard to be very quickly active on the business. So what we see people doing as well, specifically if the question comes out of the business, how can I become more agile in very quickly build something? And we talk a little bit about that approach later on as well. You want to do it quick, easy, fast, and get tested and understand with some experimentation what you could do. And that's not necessarily something that is standard in the IT side. So as I said, it's or I didn't say it, but what we do see is, it's no longer business as usual. And where you have the standard system, the big system, they're all great. You need them, the system of record. But we also see that customers need more agility, and you don't want to plan everything out. The landscape is beautiful. There will be hills in the landscape that you have to pass on. You have to go over it or around it. All these things will happen, and behind it will be something else that you might not know. But it's something that you just want to go step by step, and we very, very much advocate that. Lean Startup, I think, from Eric Ries is a great book to read about it as well. How can you as an organization become agile? Start trying it out, testing it. Maybe go different path because you don't see value. Go in that path if you do see value. I think if you can do that, that's a great testament, I think, to an organization that wants to adopt new ways of advancing their business. So I want to talk a little bit about a few next steps. I think what is important if you listen to this, and I know it's very, very limited because we only do it in 20 minutes, but evaluate the value of prescriptive analytics for your business. Looking at this, we'll have some references. There are some books. Think about that. What could it mean for you? Do you see some potential? Where are you? Are you frustrated, limited, stuck, or do you just want to do this? Good to know as well, because it helps you understand how to drive people, how to change the organization. And I think that's the last part. Are you willing to change? We've seen many, many times that people see the problem, but you need a pretty solid base to wanting to change, because it will change some of the roles of how people are doing. Instead of making a plan in a spreadsheet, suddenly you get the plans in front of you, so it brings you to a new way of working the business. But that's also an opportunity, I think, for many of the employees to give them new ways of making better decisions. I think everybody is benefiting from that. And anyway, so if you want to, you can do that internally, but we're happy to talk to you about it. So please do reach out. My contact details are at the end. You can write us an email. We're happy to talk and help you in that process. With that, I want to bring it back to you, Laura.
All right. Well, thank you, Gert-Jan. Now we come to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So if you have a question, just use the questions window and submit your question. And you can do so in the control panel right now. And we'll take as many questions as time allows. Here's a question, Gert-Jan. What are the most common applications for prescriptive analytics? And is there like a common one that some companies start with?
Interesting question. Of course, you try to somehow generalize it over the whole world. That's always going to be tough. But what was interesting to see last year, we saw a lot of sales and operation planning applications in different industries where people said, well, I have my demand forecasts are getting better. They're even looking a little bit of it. Can I do some more optimization on that side, be more predictable, and use that to steer the operations, become more become more robust on volatile demand, because that's a big challenge. That's one of them. Of course, and I think that's even in the last 5 years, network optimization is always a big one. Always. A lot of consultants, logistical analysts, engineers are doing that. What to do with my network in the logistics area. Those are two ones. And what I also see a lot in the oil, gas, chemical industry, there's a lot of optimization there on the scheduling world. How do I schedule my refineries? We saw an example of the barge scheduling. These type of things are very, very important. And of course, there are many. It's hard to choose maybe, but just to give you some examples, I think the retail space is always also very much picking up with the marketing side, promotional side, pricing side, definitely. And of course, they have a large supply chain, how to manage that. And they're looking at new ways to make money. How can they take the next step? Amazon is on their tail. So what do you do?
So would you say that those are the industries that are leading the pack, the ones that you mentioned?
I think they're definitely leading the pack. Is always a hard thing to say, but I think they're definitely very capable of doing these things and willing to do these things. And I think they're building up these advanced analytics group within the company, or they're making relationship with very good consulting companies that can help them do that.
All right.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you. Just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed the information presented, and a big thank you to Gert-Jan for the webcast. Again, just to repeat, we're going to be sending out the slides and a link to the video within the next few days, so be on the lookout for that email. And in the slides, we'll include a list of resources if you'd like to learn more about the topic. And if you actually go to the panel right now in the handouts, there's a brochure that talks about prescriptive analytics, and it actually has 2 short case studies that you can learn more about how prescriptive analytics is being used. Of course, we have many more case studies and some customer stories on our website if you want to do a further deep dive. Below on the screen, you'll also see Gert-Jan's email. So if you want to send him a question after the webinar, please feel free to do so and reach out to him directly. We'll also, in the pack that you'll be getting, you'll see that there's a list of just some articles for you to read and refer to after the webinar as well if you want to learn more about it.